Welcome to my kitchen. Well, this is how it looks here. So I think it's time for some soup. This is a great soup because the oven does most of the work and then the blender does the rest. I fortunately had everything here, so I didn't have to go out and get anything. So here we go. Now this soup gets most of its flavor from the spices because the fruits and vegetables that are in it are very mild in flavor. We're going to start with the pears, and we're going to quarter and peel them, and I'm putting them in a separate dish because they are going to cook for less time than the squash and carrots. I tried something a little different this time. I added just a pinch of salt, which I thought would help bring out the flavor, and it did. But I like to take my time here. Supposed to have fun in the kitchen. Take your time. Enjoy it. We'll get the pears ready to go. Get the spices on. Like I said, just a little bit of salt. That's why I like to use salt shakers. It makes things a lot easier to get it evenly distributed. And this is the apple pie spice mix that I made. If you'd like the recipe, that is in one of my shorts. A little extra cinnamon and a little extra allspice. And then I'm going to drizzle just a tiny bit of olive oil on top. I just didn't want them to dry out. And we're going to move on to the butternut squash. And please be careful. These things are so difficult to cut. And I'm going to scoop out the seeds. Not going to bother to peel it. Just going to put it on the pan just the way it is, but I want to take the seeds out. If you would like to save them and roast them after the vegetables are done, you can do that. And get a spoon that has a little sharper edge on it. It makes it a little bit easier to do. And we'll get the other squash cut open. Sometimes when they're riper, they're a little bit easier to cut too. Scoop the seeds out and get them on the tray. Then peel and slice the onion. Just had enough room. Like I said, the vegetables are going to take a little bit longer to cook than the pears did. That's why I separated them. Next, cut the ends off the carrots and wash them really well. I decided not to peel them. And I salt and peppered them before I put them on the tray because I wanted to make sure that I got salt and pepper all the way around them. Make sure the whole thing got covered. Get those on there. It came together pretty quick. It didn't take too long to get this all done. I started with the salt and pepper. And then we're going to get our spices on there. And I order my spices from a place called Gracia's Italian Market Spice Company in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is not an ad. I just really like this company and they have a really great product. But they're really great there. They have a website. You can find their website and order your spices from there if you'd like. And there goes the oil. Used olive oil. I use extra virgin when I cook. Get the olive oil on there. And then I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to try to coat all the surfaces just so everything stays protected while it's in the oven. It does go in a 400-degree oven, so it is very hot. And it's just so the surfaces are protected and they don't burn. And I just used my little pastry brush for that. I tried not to smear it around too much because you don't want to disturb the spices. And then it goes in. And the pears are in. Pears took 45 minutes. And then the squash and everything took I think it was an additional 25 minutes. And there it is done. You can see the color's just a little bit darker. And I'm just going to give everything a poke with the fork to make sure it's done. You want it tender. Everything should be nice and soft. Start with the pears. Like I said, the oven does the work and then the blender finishes it up. Got the pears in there. I'm using chicken stock. If you would like to use a vegetable stock, then you could make this a very vegetarian dish. This was a little tricky. Get the skin off where you can. It was a lot better than having to stand there and peel all of that. So, like I said, you don't have to cover it with the stock, but I would fill it up at least halfway. So wherever the squash is, do half of that. I ended up using 2.5 quarts. Like I said, if you want to make this vegetarian, you can use a vegetable stock. Like I said, I've turned it on low, let it get going really well on low, and then turn the speed up and let it whirl really fast, just for a few seconds. But I put it in the big pot on the stove and let it heat up all together. That way all the flavors can get mixed together. I did let the vegetables cool a little bit before I put them in the blender. It just makes it a little bit easier. It's a little safer. Things splash around. If they're really hot, you can hurt yourself. So I did let them cool off just a bit. Give it a good stir. And then we're going to heat it up. It start to bubble a little bit. Get nice and warm. But I garnished it with something that I had made for dinner. It was a little bit of ground beef and chickpeas for dinner. I put some of that on top. It made a nice little garnish on top. And I had it with just a nice little baking soda biscuit with some butter on it. It was a really nice meal. But I had it as a meal one night, and then I used it for a sauce. I had some fish that I had with pasta, and I put it on the pasta as a sauce. I had it was lemon Parmesan pasta that I had in the freezer, and then I had some kale and green beans. Put that together, and I put this on top of that as a sauce, and then put the fish on top of that. It was absolutely delicious. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and I hope you give it a try. For a copy of the recipe and for more details, check me out on Patreon at Brazenly Beau.